The Neo Egoist League is Blue Lock's biggest arc, but more importantly it is the most hype and the most entertaining of them all. And there is in part due to the amazing goals we witness in this arc, 26 to be specific. And so in today's video we are going to rank every goal we've seen in the Neo Egoist League, from the not so hype to the best of the best. But before we do, however, I gotta make an announcement. I have actually opened the channel membership for those of you who feel generous to help me continue give you this content. You absolutely don't have to join in, but I would really appreciate it. However, with that out of the way, ladies and gentlemen, I give you every goal in the Neo Egoist League ranked. Now, to start a list like this, we gotta lay some rules. Well, not really rules, but criteria for choosing the goals, as in what makes a certain goal better than the ones before it. And so, the first criteria is actually the spectacle. I believe how beautiful the goal is and how stunning the execution was really play a huge role in ranking any goal. And I know flashy goals don't necessarily mean oppressive or dominant ones, however I feel the flashiness of a goal really shows the level of the player, and so it is the first criteria. Then comes probably the most important one, which is how dominant and how effective the goal in itself was, how the play was constructed, and how dominant was the player who scored it in the whole sequence. The third criteria is actually how impactful the goal was to the story, how much it meant for the current situation, but also to the whole overarching story of the Neo Egoist League. Then finally, and since we spoke about dominance, the fourth rule involves the pros. You see, I believe they are so dominant and so far ahead of the U20 players that any involvement from them in any goal hurts its chances to rank higher, simply because it is of no effort to the pros. But with this, the criteria for the list are set in stone, and it's time, ladies and gentlemen, to rank every goal in the Neo Egoist League. Now, as I said before, there are 26 shown goals in the whole arc. However, for 5 of these, their plays weren't really shown, and we only got to witness the final touch, and so these ones will take the bottom of the list. Starting up straight with Shidou's finisher versus FC Barca, where we quite literally only saw Shidou score with a header, and nothing else. And so, this goal, despite me believing that it was amazing, really has nothing going for it, and thus it takes the last place on our list. Then, coming up at number 25 and 24, we have a tie between two goals that were actually scored in the same game. I'm talking about Rin's opener against FC Barca and then PXG's second goal that were scored by Shidou in the same game. Now, these ones we actually got to see a little bit of play. Not that much, but enough for them to rank higher than Shidou's finisher, where unlike that goal they actually have something small going for them, which is the introduction of Charles. However, other than serving the purpose of introducing Charles, there isn't really much to talk about here. And so, moving on to the 23rd spot, which will be given to Rin's finisher versus Manshine City. Now, you could argue that less was shown in this goal compared to the previous two. However, specifically due to how dominant Rin was in that goal, I really can't place it behind those two. But again, it suffers from the same problem, we really did not see the play nor anything else, and so the only thing going for it is Rin's dominance. For the 22nd spot, we've got Sendo's finisher against Manshine City. Now, unlike the previous 4 goals, we actually witnessed the play here. Granted, it was skipped by as we only saw Barrow counter and the play weren't really built or anything. We just got to see a swift counter attack and most of the players actually did not show. However, that's not the only problem this goal suffers from. You see, spectacle-wise, it wasn't that impressive, and I can't forgive the fact that it is a hyena goal, where Sendo quite literally fed off the leftovers from Barrow, and so I can't really place it any higher. Coming up at number 21, we've got the first goal that is scored by a pro. Of course, I'm talking about Lavinio's goal against Bastard Munich. Now, this goal is honestly insane. It has a lot of things going for it. First of all, the spectacle was insane, Levy's dominance was through the roof, and it was very impactful to the story, since we got to witness the pros level. However, that's specifically why I can't place it any higher, simply because a pro scored it. Speaking of which, at number 20 we've got Noah's goal. Now, the only reason why Noah's goal is better than Levy is that Noah completely dominated Barca, unlike Levy who needed the intervention of Isagis for him to do anything against Noah. At number 19, however, we've got Kunigami's finisher against FC Barca. Now, this is the first goal we've got where everything was shown and the pros did not intervene. However, and to be honest, this is the definition of a vanilla goal. You see, it was a cross from Isagi and then a shot from Kunigami with his powerful leg. And that was about it. And if you think this is all, well, I'm not done yet. That's because this goal in itself is kind of a hyena goal, since Isagi stole the ball from Ness, and this honestly hurts the ranking of this goal greatly. And so, I can't place it any higher than the 19th spot. Then coming up at number 18, we've got Yuki's finisher versus Manshine City. Now you might be wondering to yourself, Isagi was amazing in this goal, how is it that it is this low? Well, two reasons actually. The first of which, Noah's intervention. This goal, despite it being very hype, it is stained by the participation of a pro. But also, it wasn't really Isagi who scored it, it was actually Yukimiya, where Isagi gave him everything on a silver platter. And that would be fine, I guess, but the fact that Isagi did this because Kaiser was in the way really hurts this goal, and so I will be giving it the 18th spot. At number 17, however, we have yet another goal that is plagued with the same problems, minus the intervention of a pro. I'm talking of course about Kunigami's goal against Manshine City. Now, from a spectacle point of view, this goal is actually amazing. Kunigami was such a dominant force in the air that he snatched a stray ball out of nowhere and forced the goal with finesse. However, as you all know, it is a hyena goal, and honestly the spectacle of this goal would forgive it for the hyena status. However, what really annoys me about this goal is that Kunigami stole it after Kaiser again thwarted Isagi's plans. It wasn't like Sendo's goal where the defense blocked the shot and then he snatched it, it was actually worse. Two better players than Kunigami were fighting for the ball, and he ended up snatching the loose ball. Coming up at number 16, we've got Kaiser's goals against FC Barca. Now this spot actually marks the beginning of insane and amazing goals. And I feel the opener for the Neo Egoist League is fitting to be the opener of amazing goals in our list. And that's simply because, unlike Kaiser and his system, the Blue Lockers are not yet adapted to this high level. And so, to be honest, Kaiser's dominance here is a given. And as I said, because of this, it works perfectly as the opener goal for the whole league. Then at number 15, we've got Isagi's opener against Ubers. Now, the build-up for this goal was actually amazing. Isagi snatching the ball from Lorenzo and Baro, and then him scoring after a counter with Corona would really make you think this goal deserves to be higher. However, the only reason it isn't was actually because of Uber's defense. Not only did Isagi manage to be completely free in front of the goal, but so did Ness. Two players, like honestly this goal always infuriates me. We are meant to believe that Ubers has the strongest defense. Yet their first play they were like clowns standing up where Isagi destroyed them completely. However, at number 14, we've got Chigiri's goal against FC Barca, the latest addition to the goals of the Neo Egoist League. Now, to be honest, this goal is the definition of teamwork. Nagi and Ryo build up the play, and then they use Chigiri's golden zone for him to score. Nothing spectacular, but also nothing to hurt this goal, and so I believe it deserves the 14th spot. Then at number 13, we actually got kind of a similar goal, which is Baro's self-kill shot against Bastard Munich. Nico and Sendo mostly built the attack, and then Baro used his golden zone and his shooting ability to finish the job. And honestly, it is better than Chigiri's due to the Predator Eyes. The introduction of such an insane weapon really makes this goal deserving of this spot. And as I said in Chigiri and Kaiser's goal, standard goals where the play is built by a whole team don't necessarily translate in insane spectacle, and so we can't really place them any higher. But all of this will change for the 12th spot, as we have Bachira's goal against Bastard Munich. Now, to be honest, I don't have a lot to say about this goal, except it was really amazing to watch. The spectacle of Bachira destroying a whole team through his dribbling will always be amazing, and for it to end with a beautiful shot like that, it really was satisfying to watch. And because of that dominance, I am placing it at the 12th spot. And speaking of complete dominance, at number 11 we've got Kaiser's goal against Manshine City. Now, where do I even begin with this one? He had 5 players in front of him. However, the Predator Eyes proved why they are deadly, as we see Kaiser take them all on a ride and destroy them completely, scoring one of the most oppressive goals ever. And the only reason it isn't in the top 10, Manshine's defense here wasn't really that impressive. I mean, they had 5 players in front of him, but they didn't manage to close the gap on Kaiser. Something that we've seen players with insane perception like Lorenzo and Charles were able to easily do. But regardless of any of that, we reached the cream of the pie. We reached the top 10 best goals in the Neo Egoist League. At number 10, I've got Baro's second goal against Bastard Munich. Now, to be honest, spectacle-wise, this goal was insane. He managed to shoot a shot through 4 players, not between like Kaiser did before, through them. And honestly, this alone would make this goal insane. However, there is more to it. First of all, it was against Isagi and Kaiser, and Baro took them on a ride, completely destroying them. Then there is the fact that he awakened the goal course hunting ability of his predator eyes in this shot. And if you can believe it, that's not all. Baro here actually became the light of Ubers, and he managed to lead them flawlessly, completely destroying Bastard. And the only reason it is not higher is actually due to Snuffy. You see, despite how amazing this goal is, it really gets hurt by the involvement of a pro, and so I can't really put it any higher than the 10th spot. But at number 9 we've got Isagi's finisher against Ubers. Now, this goal marks the introduction of no connection play, where Isagi and Hiyori scored the goal without looking at each other, relying heavily on metavision to spot the perfect place from where the striker can score. Now here's a fun fact. You see, Isagi and Hiyori were insane with the reflex times reflex no connection. However, let me ask you this, to whom this goal belongs? I mean, obviously to Isagi. However, it was Hiyori who did most of the job, and so to be honest, when it comes to how dominant this goal is, the points kinda go to Hiyori. However, much like the case with Baro, it was Isagi who led the whole thing, and so he takes the credits as well. But moving on, at number 8 we've got Shidou's opener against Bastard Munich. Now, this one is actually yet another no connection goal, where Charles and Shidou met each other at the best spot from where he can score, and Shidou took that chance and completely destroyed the defense of Bastard. Now, to be honest, Hiyori's play in the previous goal are much better than this one. But I gotta say this. You see, Hiyori and Isagi's goal was against just one player with metavision, which was Aiku, since Hiyori dribbled past Nico. This one, however, was insane, since Bastard had Kaiser, Isagi and Hiyori, all 3 players with insane metavision, yet none of them was able to see the empty spots behind them, simply because they were focused on Rin. And there, Shidou and Charles completely punished them, and for that reason, I think this goal is so deserving to be at number 8. At number 7, however, we've got Isagi's finisher of the PXG game, and actually the finisher of the whole Neo Egoist League arc. Now, this goal actually beats every other goal in a certain criteria, which is how impactful it was for the story. No other goal matters more than this one. However, other than this, I don't know, the spectacle was not really amazing or anything. It was a simple direct shot from Isagi. And even the art style wasn't as amazing as his shot in the Ubers game. And it doesn't even end with that. In terms of dominance, no player was dominant here at all, simply because the counter was thwarted by Shidou. Then Kunigami barely saved the day from Charles, and through sheer luck, Ness caught the ball. And what Isagi simply did was think faster than anyone. And I know this is a huge feat, however, if you think about it, it's not true dominance. It's not that Isagi destroyed everyone in a spectacle, which actually will be a hallmark of the top 6 remaining goals. And so, at number 6, we've got the first of the most dominant goals in Blue Lock. I'm talking about Chigiri Hyoma's opener against Bastard Munich. Now, think about it this way. So, Kaiser was doing his thing, but all of a sudden Chigiri shows up on the scene. He quite literally takes the ball from the defensive line of Manshine, straight to Bastard Munich net, all on his own, and all due to his speed, where he quite literally destroyed everyone on the Bastard side who dared to oppose him, as simply no one was able to respond to his zigzags, and then he ends it with a beautiful shot from his golden zone. And to be honest with you guys, this goal has it all. From the amazing spectacle of Chigiri entering through with brute speed, to the absolute dominance of him destroying Bastard completely. And I know you might say this goal wasn't really that impactful on the story, however you have to think of it this way. When Isagi achieved metavision, he noticed that his body isn't able to keep up with the new level. There he remembered what Chigiri told him after he scored this goal. He said that he found a new level and trained his body like hell to be able to harness that new level. And that was the reason for Isagi to train like hell after the Manshine City game. In a sense, this goal showed Isagi how to harness the power of metavision. And speaking of Isagi, at number 5 we've got Isagi's double gun volley, which honestly was such an odd goal from Isagi, simply because it had an amazing spectacle. Seeing Isagi feint, taking both Kaiser and Rin by surprise and then shooting an amazing goal was really a treat. And even the play in itself, it was top performance times top performance times top performance. Kunigami times Isagi times Hiyori. And Isagi was the leader of the whole play. And so, much like the case was with Baro, Isagi here became the light of Bastard Munich. and he did it with a spectacle as well, and so you already know it, this goal is so deserving of being in this spot. At number 4 however, we've got Kaiser's bicycle against Ubers. The name of the game for this goal is Spectacle and Dominance. The guy quite literally flipped in the air, even while being tackled by both Sendo and Aryu. And then after Aiku blocked his short course, he found a new one with his predator eyes and completely destroyed them. It's honestly the true definition of dominance in this play. And don't get me started on the spectacle of the bicycle kick in itself. However, this goal has a tiny problem that keeps it from entering the top 3 territory, which is the fact that it is a hyena goal. You see, after Lorenzo covered Yuki, Kaiser went and intercepted the ball from Isagis. And mind you, I would have placed this goal number 1 no problem had it not been for this hyena point. But with that being said, at number 3 we've got Nagi's goal against Bastard Munich. Of course, the 5 volley goal deserves a spot in the top 3 of our list. Now, much like Kaiser's bicycle, the name of the game for this goal is Spectacle and Dominance. First, for the spectacle, I really do not need to tell you anything. Nagi quite literally lobbed the ball above them 5 times before shooting an insane shot, which honestly was the ultimate display of dominance, where he completely wrecked Isagis and Kaiser. The poor duo really did not know what hit them. But unfortunately, much like Kaiser's bicycle, it has a small problem, which is the fact that it was a fluke. It kinda was a one-time deal kind of thing. And I know that doesn't really hurt it as much as the hyena status do, and for that reason it is at the 3rd spot. At number 2 however, we've got Kaiser's goal against PXG. Now imagine this. Kaiser was surrounded from all sides. Kaiser had a lot of players in front of him, yet he took everyone on a ride. He did something quite literally that is outside of everyone's vision. Even his teammate Ness and Isagis were shook at what he was doing. And what I love the most about this goal is that Kaiser scored it while surrounded by 4 players. Rin and Charles from the front, Tokimitsu and Karasu from the back. And let's be real, forcing a goal against Rin, Charles and Karasu is really such an impressive feat. However, if it was just that, it wouldn't deserve to be second on our list. The fact that Kaiser was so far from the goal, and the fact that his shot course was completely dead and a lot of players were in front of him, yet none of that mattered at the end, as Kaiser shoots one of the most beautiful shots ever and scored the goal that deserves to be at the 2nd spot of our list. However, ladies and gentlemen, with this, we reach the best of the best. We reach the goal that I truly believe is the best goal in the whole arc, which is Berserker Mode Rin's goal, where he completely destroyed Bastard to the point he did not score the first time he had a chance to, simply because he felt it would not be that impressive of a goal. Then he rebuilt the attack from scratch, destroying Hiyori and Kaiser in the process, and finally clashing with Isagis and forcing a goal with sovereignty. Now, for those who know me, you'd know that I hate this goal. Despite me thinking it is the best, I still don't like it. And that is due to Rin's nasty ego, where he did not score a very obvious chance. However, we're not ranking the players, their egos or mentalities. We are simply looking at a goal as it is. And when it comes to this one, I don't think it has the best spectacle, however, it is without a doubt the most dominant goal in the entirety of the Neo Egoist League, which makes it well deserving of being at the number 1 spot of our list. However, that's all I've got for you today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed the video and the list. And it goes without saying, please let me know what do you think about it. But until next time, thank you for watching.